Excellent. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is, wherever you are. Welcome back to the Think to Thrive podcast. My name, as always, is Adrian, as your host. And today I'm absolutely honored to have with me Mark, and it's more than Mark, it's Mr. Mark Victor Hansen, who you might know as the author of Chicken Book for the Soul series. One of as you said, the most widely sold book in the world. I think is 500 million plus copies of that book alone. Mark, you're very, very welcome to the show today. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, that's our original, basically. This is the 20th anniversary, but we went back to the original colors and that. So we sold a lot of these. And on this one, I even wrote down, I don't know how many people are single that you got listening, but I wrote down before I had a painful first marriage and expensive. And the second marriage, I said, well, I'll write down 267 things I need in my ideal wife in our 20th anniversary issue. And I wrote down things like, she's got to be slender, radiantly fit, great personality, superb, have her own money, fun to be with, smile, clean, neat, smells good, and then a non-smoker, because I'm not going to kiss an ashtray. That doesn't sound like a good idea to me. I'm sorry for those of you that smoke, whatever you do, and non-alcoholic, non-drug user, and charitable on their own. So, and I got a woman that was more than that. She's I call her the goddess of exquisiteness. I know I went faster than you wanted. Back to what you said. I started out as a professional speaker. People said, you're the best storyteller I've ever heard. Please write a book. So I wrote a book. Mm-hmm. Since then, we've written 328. We created the Chicken Soup for the Soul series with all my original writing. Dr. Jack Canfield and I, who's brilliant, and third in his class, Harvard, all that good stuff. We sold over 500 million of those. But then I did like 1 Minute Millionaire, and that's the only book ever to melt down Amazon. We sold so many so fast because my thinking is you're here if you're going to think to thrive. Right. And I read Think and Grow Rich until, I wrote my own book that other than Napoleon Hill, I think I've created the most millionaires other than with 1 Minute Millionaire, which has made so many people around the world so rich. Because we say, here, you make $1 million in 90 days. And here's what you do with your left brain. Here's what you do with your right brain. And the Random House, which is a great house, said, well, you can't do a purple inside. I said, not only do I want a purple inside, I want the butterfly to fly off because the universal symbol of economic freedom is a butterfly. So let's have everyone get economically free, because you got to be spiritually free, economically free, physically free, emotionally free, relationshiply free to make your life a fulfilled, fully functioning model. Does that all make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, and that's a lot for people to take in very, very quickly. But I love the 1 Minute Millionaire. I've been listening to it on Audible recently, and I really like it. I find the concepts in it incredibly simple, and this is what your friend Bob Proctor used to say as well. It's like it's very simple, but it ain't easy, so it's trying to take these simple concepts and get them across to people in such a way that they can put them into practice and make the most of them.
I own 2 companies with Bob Proctor. He and I were like that. I was in Australia. He was in Australia. And people said, you sound like Bob Proctor. And they told Bob Proctor, you sound like Mark Victor Hansen. And I wrote him a letter and I said, Bob, I know you're in Canada. The closest I'm going to get to you or you to me is I'm going to be talking at the biggest church in Detroit. And why don't you come down? Well, he came down. I gave him half the time to talk because he looked a little owlish, if you don't mind but I meant that he emanated out pure spiritual wisdom because he literally did his homework. He lived in thinking.
Yeah. I had the honor very recently and to talk to his son Brian.
Great man.
And interviewed him for the podcast also. That one's going to be released just next week. But my one regret, and I don't normally do regrets, is that I didn't get to meet Bob. Because I truly wanted to meet him. I put it on my vision board over there at one stage. I cut out a picture of me and put it beside Bob as a way for me to visualize that I wanted to meet him. So not this time around, but maybe next time around we'll get to have a chat.
In spirit, you've met him and you can watch all those videos. But what I teach about that one principle, I say, figure out what you want. You got it. God can't tell you what you want. You got to tell God what you want. Then number 2, you got to put it in writing. That's spiritual law. 3, you got to see it. So you and a picture with Bob is what I teach. But you got to have at least 200 people you want to spend time with, play with, grow with, and be expanded by. And then number 4 is build a team to build your dream. A mastermind alliance creates that third new mind that's invincible. And I obviously have that with my wife. I had it with Bob. I had it with Jack. I had it with Bob Allen. By the way, you don't have, everyone says, well, you're going to have one mastermind. No, I don't think so. During your life, you better keep growing. And if you're growing and glowing and exponentially expanding, you need to have a new team to get new dreams.
I agree. I agree. I think that's one of the things people miss quite often, myself included, for a long number of years, is that you're either growing or you're dying. You know, if you're not
Right.
expanding, if you're not learning more, you're you're gonna end up just existing, which is not a good place to be.
No.
When I say I left college at 20, qualified or left college when I was in my early 20s, and for the longest time I thought, that's it, I'm done with learning. Yeah, I've got my qualification, I've got my degree, etc., and that's it. I don't need to learn anything more. It was about 15 years later when I came across Bob, and well, the rest is history for me. I've been learning ever since. The whole concept, Mark, behind the podcast, it's a really, really simple one. I believe we've been telling, as people, we've been telling stories. You're a master storyteller. We've been telling stories since we've been sitting around a campfire in caves thousands of years ago. And the whole idea is to inspire people through stories. And the biggest thing, I believe, one of the biggest hurdles that people have is they go, well, it's all right for Mark. You know, he has it easy. You know, he doesn't have the same problems that I have. So what I want to try and do through the conversation today is get people to relate to you and understand that, yes, now you're up here at the pinnacle, but it wasn't always that way, and it wasn't always that easy. So that's sort of the theory, concept of what I'd like to jump into. How is life like for a young Mark, and how did you get these goals, these aspirations of what it is you wanted to try and achieve?
I love the question, and I love the framing and the thinking, because everybody assumes that everybody else doesn't have problems, and if you're a billionaire, you don't have problems. Just the opposite. We're writing books for billionaires, and I'll answer your question, but we just finished this one by John Paul DeJoria, who will get on your show sometime. But JP was homeless twice and wrote How to Success Without Sharing His Failure, and you know, now he's did 100 million bottles of Patron tequila, and he has 37,000 beauty salons in 103 countries. And he was homeless twice, and, you know, and had a little baby sleeping with him in a car, you know, for 2 years. So everybody has struggles to go through. And if you don't go through the struggle wisely, if you go through unwisely, you go down. If you go through wisely and say, look, I'm in the dirt right now, but I'm going to plant something, I'm going to grow something magnificent, you can do it. And obviously, my parents had no money. They're Danish immigrants, came out of World War II because my uncle created the black band that took all the Jews into Denmark, and Hitler put $100,000 hit on all my would you call my ancestors, my relatives? How's that?
Yeah, your ancestors, your relatives. Yeah. Anyhow, I never thought about it that way before. Anyhow, so Dad gets here with no English speaking ability, and we didn't have back then. Everybody says, well, why didn't he go learn English? There's no ESL. English is a second language. Didn't start until the 60s. So, you know, you don't go learn English. And we got a very hard language that you and I speak, right? I speak a couple, but this is the toughest because read and read are the same, R-E-A-D, right? Pronounced twice, different, all that. So I'm 9 years old, and I want this bicycle from, of all places, England, Ride a Wheel and Sheffield Steel. And it costs like $375. Today, that's $12,000 bicycle, like a Trek or something like that. And my dad wouldn't do it. He couldn't explain to me that he didn't have the money. That wasn't in his consciousness, right? He just said, no. So I said, can I have it if I earn it myself? Thinking no kid can earn equivalently today $12,000. It's not in the cards. But I'm reading a Boy Scout Life magazine, and it said you can sell greeting cards on consignment. Now, remember, I'm 9 years old. My mother, we get these and you sell them for $2. And she said, here's what you do, son. You're going to go up. She was a great saleswoman and ran the front of my dad's bakery. He ran the back. But I say, I'm earning my own bicycle. I'm meeting you on a Saturday morning and you come to the door. Usually your wife would come, but I say, would you like to help me get my bicycle on? Would you like to buy one box Christmas cards or invest in two, and then shut up? And I sold more greeting cards than anybody alive. And I shoveled snow, and I did anything I could find to get enough money to buy that bicycle, and I got it in the springtime in April. And then every year after that, like some people buy cars, I bought a new bicycle. So just because I really got into it. So I learned that you could sell yourself rich, and I even did a set of tapes on that.
And then, I did really well with a rock group. When the Beatles came out, I saw it and I started a rock group and we made a lot of money. And then I went to college, made no money and was in trouble and had to keep selling. And then all of a sudden I go bankrupt in long story. I'm trying to shorten it just so people, but I lost $2 million in a day in 1972 or 3. And, check the book out of the library, the world's biggest library in New York, How to Go Bankrupt by Yourself. and for 6 months, I'm upside down. I'm ready to kill myself, right? But luckily, I started studying help action stuff, got 2 mentors, and they told me how to do the speaking business, and I knocked on 10 doors. First guy at 6:30 at night after I'd gone everywhere, and I had a beat up old Volkswagen at the time, a pitted window, permanent air conditioned, no windshield wiper, and snowy in New York, and this Cadillac out in front of the business. Go in and I tell this guy my little story that I'm going to be a sales trainer in life insurance. He says, he's a big Italian guy. He said, I'll take it, Mark. What do you think? I said, the guy taught me a close I've never forgotten. Do you want to cut the check, Tony, or have your secretary cut it? There's no secretary at night. I'm a big boy, Mark. I can cut it. But before we left, he said, here's what you got, Mark. Here's what you got, Mark. Here's a director to everybody at Metropolitan. I'm the number one guy in the number one insurance company in the world. You call every one of them. You tell them Big Tony told you to hire you, and if they don't, you call me and tell them they got to hire you. I had a golden ticket to ride, man. Only Tony Robbins and I did 1,000 talks a year for the first 3 years in the business. See, everyone says, back to what your first statement was, it looks easy, but I would do a talk at 6 in the morning if I wanted, that one at 10. In between times, I'm selling because I'm only doing like 25 or 30-minute talks. In the afternoon at 2, 1 at 4, 1 at 8. Some days, and I'd work every day around the clock. I had nothing else to do, right? And this is what I wanted to do, is speak. And I knew nothing about life insurance, nothing. There's no training to train you to be a trainer at that time. We were talking about 1973, 4, 5. And I'm just rocking it. And people say, well, you got to have a book. So I said, well, okay, I'll write a book. So I wrote a book called, I don't know if I got it right here or not. Do I have it? I don't have it available. Stand Up, Speak Out, and Win It. They cost me $1 to print, self-publish, which is one of the 4 ways you can go. And we'll talk about that. I sold 20,000 copies the first year. Well, 20,000 times 10 is 200,000. I know you're not going to believe this because you're younger than me, but the fact of the matter, there was no credit cards. Everything was cash. Nice. I was like, $20,000 today is like $2 million. I mean, I paid off my bills. I had a brand new Chrysler Cordoba car with white Corinthian leather, which was state of the art then. Mercedes and that had not come big time to America because right after the war, still 20 years. Yeah. And it was just, I was having an amazing time. And it, not that I haven't had a lot of pulsations, but the Bible calls it the vicissitudes of life, meaning the crap's going to hit the fan for everybody. They don't pick on you and they don't pick on me. They pick on everyone.
On everybody. It's the universal law. The universal laws. I love it. There's a saying, I can't remember who said it, but you're at the top of your game. Always remember this too will pass. You're at the bottom of your game and you're having a horrible time. This too will pass. No matter what it is that you're going through at this moment in time, given enough time, it'll pass.
Alexander the Great said it. He was going into the chariot after he conquered the world, and he had 2 guys fanning him, saying, "Remember this so fast." When he's getting the awards and when he's getting attacked with bow and arrows, in the back.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it's good. It's good advice. Wow, 200,000 in cash in 1970s something.
74, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds. Have you ever heard of? Probably not. The Football Association of Ireland. We play soccer.
Watched them on TV. Yep. Yeah. They're really good.
Yeah, but the guy that was in charge of that during one of the World Cups, he was selling tickets. He was actually embezzling a lot of money. It was a whole other story. But one of the bits that I remember from it is that he said they walked up into the bedroom, and this guy came up into the bedroom in the hotel at the World Cup in order to get some tickets, and there was just cash everywhere. It was like there's piles of cash in the bed, piles of cash on the table, piles of cash just everywhere. That's the image that jumped in my mind when you mentioned that. So then so getting into the speaking thing, because that's something that resonates with me actually, Mark. That's something that I like doing. I love getting up in front of people and sharing a message. What was it that drove you to want to do that? Was it just the need in order to survive, or in order to do something, or is there a message that you felt that you really wanted to share with people?
I think all of what you said, but at first I was watching the great and inspiring speakers, and every one of them changed my life.
Yeah.
Because you need to get in front of somebody live. It's great to get them on YouTube or some social media, but when you're really with them, it's called entrainment. You feel your soul touches their soul. And like I met with Buckminster Fuller, the smartest man on the planet, and then I worked for him for 7 years. And I tried to be him, and that's what caused me to go bankrupt. It's not his fault; it's my fault. So I want to put the credit there. But then I heard ex-convicts speak, and I heard everybody speak, and I said, that's what I want to do. And so I'm bankrupt. I'm upside down. I'm sleeping in a sleeping bag in front of another guy's room in Hicksville, Long Island, New York. So things are not styling and profiling. And I say, okay, God, what do you want me to do? And God didn't do it the way, because I wrote a whole book, Ask, which everyone's got to read this. This is ask yourself, ask others, ask God. But I'm asking God, what do you want me to do? God answers this way in that still small voice. What do you want to do? I said, I want to talk to people that care about things that matter, that make a life-changing difference. So next morning, he said, go do it. I'm at breakfast table, and I say, hey, you guys, 3 roommates in Hicksville. Any of you guys know somebody that's young, not a cotton top, white hair like me, not a Broadway star, a New York Broadway star, a celebrity, a doctor, a lawyer, just a person. The guy said, he's 10 or 12 years older than you, but he's out in Hauppauge. I'm in real estate. Go listen to him. Here's my ticket. And I thought, boy, talk about God giving me a path forward. And this guy told me, look, if you stay out of real estate, do life insurance, it's a bottomless pit. Because what I'm going to teach you is you got to pick a niche and grow rich in it. But when you're growing rich in it, what I did right was I did talks, got paid. I started $25 an hour, 4 hours, $100 back in 1973 or 4. That was okay. Then, now I'm at 35,000 for an American talk and 75,000 international. So things get better if you keep doing it and you know a little bit more, and you can really help a lot of people. But then they said, do product. And then so you got to get paid twice to 3 times if you want to be really wealthy. All the people that are billionaires, and we're doing their books, their biographies now, all of them do that. Now, what I did it with was, I'm not a billionaire yet, but is we started with, speeches. Then we did product on top of it. Then we did giant seminars. I ran a $100 million seminar company with Bob Allen called Enlightened Millionaire Institute. We had 4,000 people every weekend, 40 weekends a year, packed it, sold a bejesus out of it. And then we took people on trips for 25 grand if they wanted to go with us to climb Mount Kilimanjaro or Machu Picchu or Tahiti, or to do stuff that they would never do on their own. And Tony Robbins and I, at that juncture, had the biggest. He got bigger than me there, and I got way bigger than him in books, because I said, what do I want to be? I carried my little 3x5 card. I'm so happy and thankful that I'm world's best-selling author. And now if you go to Guinness, I'm world's best-selling nonfiction author. Miss Harry Potter's the world's best-selling fiction author. God bless her. Temporarily, my wife and I have written this book, Ask, which I have right here, and it begins with the fable of Michaela, because if you're going to do books, they got to be original. Don't repeat anybody else's stuff. That's silly. You've got plenty of originality. God within you knows how to do it, and I teach you how to get to God within. Anyhow, I can do the chat next if you want. Then it's got to be transformative to the reader, meaning they read it and they go, wow, I get it. And then number 3, it's got to be inevitable that when you read it, Adrian, you say, Sally, Sammy, Steve, you got to read this book. And fortunately, our books have done that. Our average book has about a pass-along value. It depends on the country, but in India, like 12, and in China, 15.
So you mean when somebody refers somebody else to buy the book, or that somebody passes the book on to somebody else?
In China, the bookstores have 2 books, the little red book, which is ill-written by Mao, and my book. And they didn't get the soul and the God within you and the God spirit that is the essence of who you really are. And the people all get it, but the censors didn't get it. So, when I've been to China 80 times when it was safe and capitalistically communistic. Now and our president was just there. Some people were going to listen to this long ago, but a president was there yesterday again, renegotiating, because they're Maoistically communist. I can explain all that, but that you don't want it. I am a absolutist for freedom of the human thinking, soul, and speech.
I something it's a topic that I generally stay away from altogether is politics when I'm talking to somebody. But seeing as you're in the US and you mentioned President Trump, I am a believer in an open free market whereby people can freely offer their services or goods or whatever it is around wherever in the world they can find customers.
Right.
The what we hear over this side of the Atlantic is that things are slightly different over in the US now than what they historically have been. Do you feel that being where you are, or is it better than before, worse than before, or any change?
100% better than before, because I believe in constitutional capitalism based on the other engine, free enterprise. And free enterprise is the only thing that allows somebody go from nowhere to somewhere with innovation. And the marketplace, because you're talking about thriving, there's only two parts of the marketplace Peter Drucker taught us. Number one is you got to learn to market and sell.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, you got to innovate. And the reason is like when we came out with Chicken One, and if in business there's called an S curve. You front end put money in, it goes down, and then all of a sudden it goes up, but it always peaks out, and that's why it's an S. It starts, it goes up, it flattens out. So what you do is we had to have a second helping, this red book, the second helping of Chicken Soup for the Soul, to balance a first. And that's why when people come into my publishing company, Mark Victor Hansen Library.com, what we do is we say, hey, look, we're going to do your first book, but you got to know you got to have your second book to transcend it. And the second book will force you to sell more. And what the thing that happened is I was doing all those interviews, sometimes 4 or 5 interviews a day, because you got to work. Only way to get to work is the word that comes forward in the dictionary. Success comes out of work. In my experience, I didn't get any free lunches. So, and all the people that want a free lunch are idiots. Because the Bible says, no worky, no eaty. It's actually stated that way. So if you want to eaty, you better worky. Anyhow, I know I'm goofing with a little bit, but and I did Chicken Soup for the Soul Bible. It has been a great, we sold 70,000 a week, and then I changed it with a purple cover, and I did little stories, getting a big story. And, Jack and I championed different books. So it was amazing. So.
Yeah,
we had a good time. But did that make you knew about the S curve?
Yes, yeah, I've heard of that before. Yeah.
Well, the guy that does the best S curves and the most of them, the fastest, is my hero, Elon Musk. He has 8 multi-billion-dollar companies, and right now he is saying we're stockholders and saying, hey, look, what you've got to do is pay me $1 trillion. That's spelled with a T. $1 trillion. If I make $8 trillion, you pay me $1 trillion. And the vote happens in the next couple of days, and people are saying nobody deserves $1 trillion. Hey, there's only one guy that can create $1 trillion, and he's not taking it for himself. You can't eat $1 trillion. What is he going to do? He's going to go to the moon, and we're going to become an interplanetary species because of one guy. Now you say, look, when I was in graduate school, the smartest guy on the planet, Buckminster Fuller, he was ahead of NASA at the time, as a senior advisor, and space program's an ecology program, but for 50 years we've done zero.
Yeah.
And by the way, you think I'm irritated? I'm irritated because they pissed away $2 billion a year because they're politicians rather than innovators. Do you understand? Only capitalistic communism, capitalistic constitutionalism based with the motor power of free enterprise. What's this guy done? He has done so well. We're going into space. He now knows how to land it and catch it, right? And vertical and reuse a rocket. But what does that mean? That means you and I are going to have an airplane. Instead of me taking 12 hours to fly to you and have to stop one place, he's going to have planes in 2 years because Boeing has been sitting on their thumbs. Do you understand? I'm not okay with non-innovation, whether it's a book writer, a business guy, a technician. And we're in the greatest technical times ever. And that's going to cause fundamental abundance for the planet. But we're going to have a plane that goes from me to you in an hour and a half, just up to 100,000 feet and down, and land vertically. We get out. We're happy. We can have a dinner there and then go home if you wanted. Is that cool?
That's amazing. I mean, even when you think about Concorde and what Concorde did years ago, and did you ever fly in Concorde?
Yeah. And you're up at 60,000 feet. You literally see the curve of the Earth, which, the guy you mentioned earlier, Aristotle, just couldn't have done that. I mean, he went the highest ladder and he was going to touch the moon, but he didn't understand the moon's 250,000 miles away. You can't touch the moon. Looks that way, some parts of the year, but you can't do it.
You get close. You get close. You mentioned their technology, and I was reading something earlier on, and I just made some notes about your America's Golden Age, and you talk about from what Cathy Wood said about AI, or sorry, the 7 forces that are going to drive America forward, which is the innovation. So one of them is AI. Obviously, is the biggest one. There's an awful lot of talk about AI these days. Like everybody and their mother is talking about how AI is or what it's going to do and how dangerous it is, and it's going to cause the end of the world, etc. What's your take on it, Mark? What do you think about AI, and how is it going to be used for people?
Okay, so 2 separate things. First of all, Cathy Woods was a genius, and we're invested with Cathy because she's so smart. But Cathy said, look, what caused the Roaring '20s was we had 3 convergences. We had the automobile in 1906. We had gasoline suddenly with Rockefeller and his partner Flagler. We had the airplane with the Wright brothers, and all of them converged. That's what you call. And today we got 7. The top one is AI, and turns out Tesla cars are the best AI. They're a computer on wheels. And so then back to your second part of the question is, you've either got utopia, which is what I'm for, and my teacher wrote a book, Dr. Fuller wrote Utopia or Oblivion, or you've got dystopia. Now this is what sells, because media only what bleeds, reads, and leads in the newspaper. So you got guys like Rupert Murdoch, who tells all this crap about AI and what it's going to do, and it's going to kill all of us and all things. Well, sure, everyone saw 2001: Space Odyssey, and Arthur C. Clarke, who is 6'8", who I met, was greatest friends with my teacher, and he lives in Sri Lanka. So yeah, you could say that Hal, the computer, I'm sure you saw the movie, is going to dust all of us. Well, that is a point of view. But then you've got Elon Musk saying, hey, look, we are at a different place in space and universe. We can create utopia, and we can make sure, back to why you got to know politics, who is feeding the information, and are you dealing with big T truth? And he's got Grok now 5 and 6, which is dealing with full-fledged truth, right? And no bias. So you'll get free speech. So you'll get people attacking it and saying this is dystopia, and people saying, hey, we can create greatness with it. Now I'm part of let's go for greatness. Let's go for gusto. And we use ChatGPT, but not to write our books, because at the moment, Amazon won't take any book that's written with AI. If they catch you using AI on their watermarks, they ex-nay you for 5 years. So this is like a serious, all these people say, well, I wrote that book in 1 hour. Well, good for you, jerk. Did you check and see if you can really own, because you can't own a copyright where you're stealing material, right? And because I've had so much of my material stolen in China, right? Which is amazing. They pay me 75 grand for a talk, and then they steal everything and try to sell it. So I'm always careful what I'm teaching. And yesterday that got stopped. They're no longer, according to Xi, going to steal our IP. Now, do I believe that? No. But I mean, at least Trump's trying.
For sure.
And I know from your point of view, and what you'll read in your media, is that he is trying. That's true.
I think there's too much concentration on one person, to be fair. It's my own personal opinion on it. I don't know Trump. I don't know a lot about him really, other than what we see in the media over here. It's not all sunshine and rainbows as what we see, but look, there's been an awful lot of changes, and change is good, I think. Change for the better. Time will tell. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to watch from this side of the Atlantic.
My wife and I are on vacation down in Cancun, and 2 Brits are in the water, and they're saying, we look at your news like entertainment. And you could, but the fact is, this guy's doing fundamental changes that I think are good, and I can defend any one of them because I'm on the inside of all this stuff. And they're trying to get rid of people that are trying to kill us, because you got Bill Gates, who's desperate. I know I'm going too far probably for some of your listeners, but Bill Gates, if you really read what he says on a TED Talk, so it's their public, so you can go watch it on X or you can watch it on YouTube. He says we should only have 500 million people. Well, he believes in Malthus. Well, Malthus was wrong, because Malthus says he said agriculture is arithmetic, 1, 2, 3, 4. Population is geometric, 2, 4, 8, 16, right? 32. exponential. He was wrong. He didn't know the tractor was coming. He didn't know fertilizer was coming. He didn't know greenhouse were coming. He didn't know we'd have stacked greenhouse. I can go on because I'm in all these businesses. But the fact of the matter is, we're in the most exquisitely exciting, tantalizingly relevant time. But you got to be awake. If you're listening to legacy media, whether it's BBC, where I've been on all 23 channels on BBC in the big offices there, they're full of crap. They are told this is the amount of information you're allowed to deal with. Well, look, we have an infinite universe. You've got an infinite mental capacity. You've got an infinite soul capacity, which no one else is teaching other than me. Where what Trump's done is he doesn't live in 3D, he lives in 4D. He outthinks everybody because he's up in this spiritual awareness. And the same with Elon Musk. He's not living at a sidereal level. He's living at an expanded level. And all of us are supposed to do our spiritual homework and get there, whatever your spiritual system is, with the exception of the constipated ones, which I will not mention.
Okay. It's funny. You said there a few minutes ago about utopia and dystopia when it comes to what AI could potentially bring, I'm reminded of Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret. I was reading it the other day or listening to it. The you become what you think about,
right?
And when it comes when you think about the dystopia, if all the information that you're being fed is about how bad it is, how horrible it's going to be, that we're all going to die, it's going to take over, etc., and that's all that you're thinking about, and that's all that everybody is thinking about, no wonder people believe that that's where things are going to go. And something I was saying to my wife the other day, I don't like watching new movies anymore because all of the new movies just all seem to be all about disaster, killing, the end of the world, and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think there's a lot of great movies going on at the moment. Okay.
Can I hit on that first before we go to the next topic? And then we got to finish up in about 5 minutes. But I got another right behind us. The movies are so bad. Like here we got Harkins Theater and Edwards Theater in Arizona, where I live in Scottsdale, and 9 out of 10 movies are horror and terror and war and bloodshed and guts. And so my wife and I have said, hey, look, we've got MarkVictorHansenLibrary.com booming. And now we've just had somebody come to us with a fortune and says, we want you to take all that top content, which New York would not take. New York is the publishing capital of America and the world. And they only want 17%. I want the whole world. And yesterday a guy gave me 100 million market in Africa, which they wouldn't go to New York because they know they're not smart enough to see it's an innovation and it's smart marketing, and let's do it. And this is a guy that's really powerful. So it's fascinating. We're going to make movies, and we're going to make them very well. Like the front of, I want everybody to get a copy of Ask. You can get it at Amazon, and I expect that to pretty much everywhere in the world. But Fable of Michaela has been written into 3 screenplays, and we're going to make them all at once, sort of like, I can take you through it. But we're going to start making high-quality, family-oriented movies that are omni-beneficial, that show the infinite potential of each human being.
Love it. I absolutely love it, Marcus, because there's so much crap out there at the moment. I got this new device where I get thousands of movies, and I was sitting down looking through them the other day, and it was Aliens Dead Disaster, Aliens Dead Disaster. I was like, I don't want to watch any of this. Why did I pay for it?
Right.
I love books. I absolutely love books. And I have you have a book in you from a few years ago. I have a copy of that, and I've been reading it. I'm in the process at the moment. Well, by the time this gets released, it'll be out. Actually, I've been a contributing author on a book along with Pat and his wife. But given the way the world is today and technology, etc., and books come in all different sort of formats, I know. But your paper book. Do you think is there a time when the paper book or that sort of thing just won't exist anymore, or do you think there'll always be a need for books?
Okay, so let me answer by saying we are writing these biographies, and what my cliche is that you got to have your biography starting at 40, and then if you can do it every 10 years, because you're 10 years different from you were 10 years ago for sure, and your biography is the only lasting gift of love that you give your family, your friends, the future, and the world that's permanent. Now you say, well, what do you mean? Well, the scrolls 5,000 years ago are still permanent. Now we call them a Bible, right? When Samaria, which became Israel, started. So the fact, but by the way, 5,000 years ago, one of my daughters, we got 5 kids, 6 grandkids. One of my daughters is an evolutionary biologist. Little boys walk at 12 months, little girls at 8 or 9 months. And that's just evolution. But that's also when language started and consciousness and civilization. You don't have civilization without the 10 Commandments. It did not exist. Because, okay, if I don't like you, I kill you. Hell with you. Right? If I don't like you, I'll steal everything you got. Right? But that's why there are 10 commandments. They're not 10 suggestions Jig uses. So we're in this great, glorious place that people are starting to get it, that you see the barbarians. They're all over the place. And they're all getting shut down now. And one guy has the guts, gall, strength, ability, belief that bullies should not rule the earth because they steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah. Very true. So I'm very conscious of your time, and I know you said you have a couple of minutes until we finish up. On books.
Two more quick questions, and then I got to leave. I'm sorry. I love this.
No. You've been very generous with your time. A book recommendation. Okay, I wrote this down earlier on because I know you're a very spiritual person. You always recommend the Bible, and you have your own version of the Bible. A book that is maybe not one of yours, if you can think of one that you would recommend for people.
Assuming everybody's read Think and Grow Rich, get that if you need business and get your consciousness awake. Otherwise, you want to read Resurrection by Neville, Neville. Neville Goddard, who's in Barbados. Yeah. And he's just a genius because he said you got to live in the assumption of the wish fulfilled, which is exactly what I do. Is I assumed I could become a world's best-selling author, and it took 50 years, but I pulled it off. So, and you say, well, I don't want to wait 50. Good. Then you make your visualization, go contract the time. I can't do it for you. You got to do your own. Each of us has to. This is a one-off. It's a single-player game. Each of us has to learn the 4 principles I talked about early in the show. They're going to have to watch it again and get them, but that's the way it goes, right? I didn't make it. They're just the principles of the universe.
Yeah, true. And the very last point or last question is, where did I have it? I'm not prepared. Where am I? Oh yeah. From Ask, I had one thing that I wrote down as sort of the central idea is that everything you want, need, or dream of is one ask away.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That's correct. And what you want to do is go to askthebookclub.com, free, and we create so you can become a master asker. My wife and I think we're master askers, and people become master askers and tell us about it. We give them an award. So it is, we need more people to ask to the fulfillment of their destiny. The title of this book is, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. Everyone has a destiny. And by the way, if you die and go to the other side and you didn't fulfill your destiny, if you watch any of the near-death experiences, and there's 20,000 of them on YouTube, the big guy says, hey, you and I agreed to something before you got to the planet. You didn't do your job. You're going back. And all of a sudden you go through the tunnel at the end of the crown chakra and through your body, and you jolt up.
Yeah, I'm just reading at the moment Life After Life by Raymond Moody. Brilliant. Absolutely love it.
He and I were in church together. I like that, man. I apologize, but as you can see, I've got to stop. So I thank you for having me. I hope we could do it again. Multiplied blessings on you. It was fun for me. I hope it was fun for you and all the listeners.
It really was, Mark. Thank you very much. You've been so generous with your time. Have a great day in Scottsdale.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.